My name is Carl Smith. I'm Sheila's husband. I was 5, and the neighbor across the street, my friend's name was Bruce, and his father was a pastor, and his father was fairly strict. He was sort of the fire and brimstone type of pastor. And I can remember sitting out on their porch on a summer night and my friend Bruce telling me that, if your parents aren't saved, they're going to hell. And whoever is not saved is going to hell. And for a 5-year-old, it scared me. It disturbed me. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't come to grips with that. And I think that in some ways that sort of pushed me away. In elementary school, my aunt and her husband went to church, Southside Christian Church, and my parents never went to church. They thought it was a good idea for me and my brother to go to church. I did find some peace there, I think. Although, being in elementary school, there were times that we would sneak out of Sunday school and run down to the drugstore. And I remember my brother getting into a huge fight with the pastor's son down in the basement, and when whoever was teaching Sunday school was not there. And they were throwing folding chairs at each other. So I don't know how seriously I took the message. We quit going probably about the time we got into close to junior high. I don't know how we got out of that one to not, because my aunt and uncle would come and pick us up and take us to church, and at some point that stopped. When I was working at Memorial in the kitchen, when my friend Steve, he was, I think he was Baptist at first, and then he converted to being a Mennonite. And that's when that started. I was 20. And shift would be over. I'd be in the locker room changing. He'd be sitting on the bench reading the Bible, and he would start in with the questions. Do you know, how confident are you where you will be if you died tonight? And I think at one point, we were walking out. He would follow me out to the parking lot, but we had stopped off in one of these little alcoves, and he asked me to recite the prayer of salvation with him. And I did. And I can't say that it was a profound experience for me. And it was one of those, was I just going through the motions just to shut him up and just so that he would leave me alone, which didn't seem right. It felt like coercion. I can't honestly say how I answered him, other than I don't know, or the typical answers of people saying, well, I think I'm a pretty good person, and I don't do really anything that bad. Of course, knowing Steve, that's not enough. And that goes back to this idea of, is it salvation simple, or is it very complex? And I think I bounce back and forth between thinking, well, simplicity, yeah, that's probably, keep it simple, stupid. But then you enter in times of doubt and say, well, am I really fulfilling my purpose? Am I really doing what God intended me to do? And I'm not a big Willy Wonka fan, but I know I've seen it a few times in the scene at the end where there's the giant contract and the kid's done everything. And he gets in on that one tiny little detail, and you've lost, because of that one thing. And Is that the way it really is? That you can go through this process and you can say the prayer of salvation and you can be baptized and you can go to church, and yet in the end, when your life is over, there's that one thing, there's those few things that you didn't do or that you did do that negates all of that, and now you are destined to be destroyed and tormented for eternity because you slipped up on one or more details. Would I wish eternal torment on my worst enemy? And even as a human, I can't fathom that. I don't understand that. And that, to me, is one of the things that has kept me away from the church. For me, and I haven't been to a lot of churches, but they seem to be very polarizing. Either it's a lot of fluff and feel good and never mind this other stuff, or it's scary and you need to do this and God is watching and this isn't going to be tolerated and you will be punished for it. And I don't necessarily know as I resonate on either side of that fence. So I guess Nicodemus there's something there, something drew him there, and it was in direct opposition. He was one of the Pharisees, right? So it was in direct opposition in some respects to everything that he had lived his life for. He saw something there that prompted him to seek it out. The path my life had taken, being involved in music and being involved in a band, and I think, there's a couple times throughout the years of being in a band that people have come to me and honestly said, you make people happy. And I've noticed, there are enough times when the night is over and this sounds dumb, but even the beginning or the end of the night, when you hear this sort of buzz, you hear people talking and laughing, and you can tell it's sort of excited conversation. And at the end of the night, when you hear that and people are walking out and they're smiling and laughing and they're having a good time and they have forgotten or dropped off their 9 to 5 and their kids and their obligations and their car payments and the leaky faucet and all of that, and we have provided them an escape from that and have sort of in one way or another lifted their spirits or made them feel good about something. I suppose there is some value in that. I don't know. I just think that I will always be seeking the truth. I will never stop that. I'm obsessed with finding the truth. And I don't know as anybody really gets it. But I think I feel as though if I am seeking the truth, I hope that the truth finds me.